Welcome to Chicago Style Parenting, where we delve into parenting life in Chicago and uncover the resources, information, and support that Chicago families need. I'm Amy Johnson, the Executive Director of Neighborhood Parents Network.
And I'm Satara, Director of Marketing, Content, and Social Strategy at NPN. It's the middle of winter, and that means that savvy parents in Chicago are looking ahead and starting to register for summer camp.
Believe it or not, that's true. Today, we're excited to talk with 4 guests who know all about summer camp options in Chicago.
Yes, we are so pleased to introduce you to Dana, Executive Director of Leap Forward and Quantum Leap Academy. Jay, Admissions Director at Intercultural Montessori Language School. Sarah, the Middle School Program Manager at Chicago Academy for the Arts. And Shani, the Co-Director of Northwestern's chapter of Camp Kesem. Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Welcome, everyone. I want to start the conversation by asking, did you go to day camp or sleepaway camp as a child? And if so, what is one thing you remember about it? Shini, I'll start with you.
Okay. I did not go to sleepaway camp as a child, but I was a day camp kid at the local YMCA. I remember spending just tons of time outside in the sun, which sometimes I hated. But even then, it was a lot of fun because I had friends who would sit in the shade and play cards with me, or we'd make a lot of friendship bracelets or the lanyards with like the plasticky string. So fun times.
That's right, classic.
I guess a lot of people say that I have a vast knowledge of a wide variety of random things, and I think that dates back to summer camp because my parents used to put me in every summer camp they could find, whether that be for a week, whether it be golf camp or bicycle riding camp or bowling or anything. And I thought that the one thing that it really did was encourage me to try new things, and also the social skills aspect where I met a lot of new people while trying those new things. And I think that helped me out quite a bit. So ultimately, I learned quite a bit. I don't know how many of those things I still do today, but I have an idea of how to do a lot of that because of all the different things I tried as a kid.
Yeah.
I was a summer camp sleepaway kid, did the shipped off for a few weeks and didn't talk to anyone from home and got to have all these new experiences, things that I never would have dreamed, sailing and different hikings and lashing things at like a very outdoorsy space. So
for multiple weeks, you said?
Yeah, all summer. I think there was one summer, it was like all summer. And as a parent, I don't know how my parents did it, but I loved it. It's great.
Great.
I definitely went away to camp. My favorite camp was a horseback riding camp that I did when I went through like a pony phase. And what I didn't realize when I begged my parents to sign me up for it is that it also involved like cleaning up behind the horses and like the full upkeep and taking care of horses. And I went through that phase much quicker because of that camp. So my parents are probably very grateful because I was begging for a little pony. And then I spent most of like middle school and high school doing like cheer camps all summer. So it quickly shifted to like things that I'm interested in, to like sports and teams that I'm a part of, and having to participate in those camps.
Yeah, I did some sleepaway camps like that too around the sports I was doing. It was fun at a university.
Yeah.
That was exciting to live in a dorm for a week as an older kid. Yeah. Well, Jay touched on this a little bit, but what benefits does summer camp have for kids? What do you guys think? We remember that. Yeah, go ahead, Dana.
Yeah, I think especially when they're used to being at school, for a lot of kids, the structure of like still having something to do, but a different kind of structure is really beneficial. And it gives them that space to, like you said, try the new things and in a safe environment where they can experiment a bit.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think there's lots of good challenges there, particularly if the kind of summer camp you're at is offering you opportunities to work collaboratively with other kids. There's a lot of like social growth that can happen, I think. And just being outside of the school year when you can be so distracted by so many other things, it can be a time to really focus and grow on a hobby or an activity or an extracurricular that you really like. So
yeah, that's true. I've noticed my kids have their summer camp friends that are totally different. Well, there's a little bit of crossover with a couple school friends, but it's a different relationship, a different way they get together, and totally different people who they never would have met otherwise. And that I imagine that's a breath of fresh air for kids and just expands their social circle. And I love to see it.
Yeah. I think one benefit that kids might not necessarily recognize, but parents absolutely will, is it forces your kid to unplug a little bit. So in a world where kids are like killing so much time on their screens or playing games, even if it's not like social media type things, but it forces them to like not have a phone for a period of time and have a day full of other activities. So I think by the time kids come home, they're just like too exhausted. If it's not a sleepaway camp, they're just too exhausted to even engage in that anymore. So it helps kind of reduce some of that screen time as well.
And I think too, I experienced my first no childcare. I have a young daughter, summer, and as a parent, it gives you that sense of safety and security that like, oh, they're safe somewhere. I can still go do what I need to do as a parent, go to my job, and she's safe and having a good time.
Yeah, actually, Dana, from that point, for everyone else who is a parent, what factors do you consider when choosing a summer camp for your child?
I think for me, it's the experience. Like, what is she going to get out of it that she might not get out of other things that we do throughout the school year? It's considering her interest, but also pushing her to do something a little bit different, to step outside her comfort zone. Timing and location plays a factor. You got to think about where it is, and some summer camps are half day or full day, and as a full-time working parent, I've got to consider those as well.
Yeah, on top. Oh, sorry, Amy. I was just going to say, on top of that, as a new parent, my son is 18 months. Safety is the big thing. It seems like a lot of these camps and everything do a really good job of that. But safety and like staff training and just how everyone is kind of structured together, I think is important. But really just the experience. My son's going to try so many new things moving forward here. So like I'm thinking life skills like swimming and speaking camp. I don't know, he's not speaking yet. So like all of these little things that I think will help him enjoy other camps in the future, I think would be what I'm targeting next year. But yeah, safety seems to be, unfortunately the big thing. But other than that, just that, one, I agree with Dana. as two full working parents, it's great with time and planning. But also just the fact that they're not going to be bored or dislike it, and it's tough when you have such a young child because you don't really know.
It is hard with a young kid. I remember sending my kids to a camp, and they would take a bus to go swimming or go to a water park, and I was so nervous because they were so young. They weren't strong swimmers, and you're just relying on all these adults you don't know to keep your child safe. And of course they were fine. Most kids are fine in that situation, but it is nerve-wracking. One factor I always looked for was affordability. I had flexibility in my work to drive a distance or to, choose a camp that wasn't necessarily super convenient for a 9-to-5 schedule, but affordability was important to me. Or if I was going to spend more on a camp, I wanted to know what were they going to get out of it? Like, what activities were they going to have that I couldn't otherwise provide to them to make that cost worth it? And there's a lot of options in Chicago to choose from to meet all of these needs, which is great. I almost always found what I was looking for, but there's a lot to wade through. There's so many to explore.
Yeah, I'll just chime in. That could be another benefit of deciding early. I think at least we at the Chicago Academy for the Arts, we do like an early bird discount if you register by the end of January. So yeah, if price is an issue, I think getting set up early can be helpful.
Yes, and that brings me to my next question. When do you think parents should start registering their kids for summer camp?
I will never forget last summer talking to somebody about, or last school year talking to somebody in the fall, and they were like, "Did you sign up for summer camps yet?" And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hold on, we just started school. This is bonkers." But yeah, like starting to look at things in the fall, and then really seriously starting to lock some stuff down by like January, February. I know there's a couple of camps that like park districts and things like that go like they don't even have their sign up until later, so it can be tricky. Like different camps have different timing, and so to like lock in for the full, what is it, 8-10 weeks of the summer can be tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah. As Sarah just said, like the affordability definitely plays a factor. And I know the earlier you register, the more options you have for like payment plans. So I'm looking at camp for my kids, and it's like if I register by January, then I can be on a payment plan that's not, $500 a month for at the very end of the spring, trying to rush and cram everything in. So that is one of the perks, at least that I've seen as a parent, for registering a little bit earlier, so you have a little more flexibility in terms of payment options and payment plans and things like that.
And those early bird discounts.
Yeah, definitely.
And having space available if you have siblings or friends that want to sign up together and make sure they can get into the same session, same time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll just, I can only speak to our programs, but we do have certain sessions that sell out. The theater and musical theater session is always very, very popular, but there's only so many parts. There's only so much room on that stage. So yeah, it's definitely important for theater families to sign up early.
And I know a lot of camps will end before the school year starts again. So there's like there's a few selection of camps that are also that will cover you the entire summer break. So those like really popular weeks versus the like 4th of July is usually an off week where people are traveling or things like that. So taking into account like what weeks you need is important, and what you're looking for that way.
That's true. Those early June and those late August weeks can be really tricky to find camps for. Yeah.
What Sarah was saying about camp filling up, it's pretty similar for CASM. Our camp registration opens in December, January, and then we start to operate on like a wait list basis, getting into April and May, and like we do our very best to get everybody off of that wait list to get them a spot at camp, but we obviously have constraints such as like the number of beds available and like how much money we have to fund it, since we do fundraise for it so that it can be available for free to our camp.
That is actually the perfect segue into the next question. But does your summer camp registration ever fill up? And do you end up turning families away? Like, what does that process look like, feel like? And what tips would you have for parents to avoid ending up on that wait list or avoid being turned away?
I guess I'll go for this one, but like our camp in particular is a little unique in certain aspects. For one, we give added benefit to our enrolled students first, which is kind of something that is an added bonus to our attending our school. But basically, we open registration on the 20th of January for current families, and then open public is able to start signing up February 13th. So, I mean, that's a really large gap there that gives like an added bonus to our families. But the idea, I believe, the most important thing is just keep an eye on those opening deadlines, when the official opening of summer camps is going to be for sign up. Because we do turn people away if we get full in certain aspects. Where our summer camp, I think, is set up really well is each week is kind of different. And also you can sign up for 1 week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks. It doesn't really matter as long as you just look at, what we're offering that week, your age and all of that, as long as there's space. So I think just by paying attention to, the different options as well as the opening sign up dates and everything is just so important. So you should know all this stuff, before the opening happens so that you're not scrambling at the end, like you were saying, Satara. So I just think that, being aware, all of our families are so well organized and put together planning for that summer. I mean, it's December and we're talking about this. So that's just one more thing to add to that list is just keep an eye on those sign up dates.
Yeah.
I think for us, we work with a neurodiverse population. Like that is our target audience for our summer program. So there is some planning that needs to go into supporting individual profiles of kids because we do individualize our programming so much. So we do need a little bit of leeway to at least, meet a family, meet a child, determine what supports, what kind of staffing am I going to need to have in place for that particular child so that we can make sure that they have a quality summer camp experience. So we do the same, Jay, like you said, we will start with our current families. We actually have already sent out summer camp enrollment to our current families. And then we will open up to like mid-February, early March, kind of depending where our current families land. If we get all of them in first and we have answers, then we'll open up a little bit earlier. But I've already got families that I'm like, okay, you're on the list of people I'm sending this email to as soon as our families have confirmed their enrollment. So I think starting early, like, it isn't going to be a problem for anyone, right? At the very least, you're told like, okay, we pause for just a moment. We'll get back with you in a few weeks. But I think that starting to reach out early is supportive for families. And we don't necessarily turn families away, but we have to look at, do we have the right fit space for that child's individual profile based on the level of support they need, the therapeutic services they're looking for. So it's about kind of fitting in the puzzle pieces of where everybody goes to create the summer camp here at LEAP.
Okay.
For us, sorry.
No, go ahead,
I was
please.
just going to add, for us, a really good way to stay on top of it and be in the know, so to speak, about when registration opens is to be on our mailing list, because we do remind our families many times throughout the year or throughout the month leading up to the registration launch date. And so that's just a good way to stay in the know, because I know for lots of parents, like, things can get lost in the shuffle. And so just to be able to relieve some of that burden on you and for us to be able to remind you all.
And do a follow on social media. Like, I think the world of, if there's a camp that you're interested in, like, follow them on Instagram and on Facebook, whatever your preferred method is, because a lot of times we'll blast out updates there too.
So start researching now, get on the mailing list, follow on social media, and check registration dates, because some camps are open already for registration. Well, now I want to turn the discussion to the types of camps available to Chicago kids.
Yeah, so some families are looking for academic-oriented camps, such as camps that go in depth on topics that elementary schools might not have time to really dig into during the school year, like robotics or writing music. Other parents look for camps that focus on supporting students with work in core subjects like reading and math. Jay at Intercultural Montessori you all run a summer camp. Does it incorporate academics? And tell us a little bit more about what it's like.
Yeah, just a little background on our school. Our school's kind of main focus is a Montessori accredited education, 15 months through 8th grade. But we also teach students a second language while they're with us. We have a few languages to choose from. But the summer camp doesn't necessarily incorporate that language aspect, but we try to incorporate, the cultural aspect in certain weeks as well. So academics is incorporated, but it's going to be like a very Montessori structured way. So summer camp is not going to be like your traditional school Montessori structure, whereas each week is going to be themed, and you can kind of pick and choose your weeks based on that. But it also will kind of incorporate that curiosity that the kids will have. And then we're going to focus on more hands-on things. So everything is structured by age as well. We have an early childhood summer camp, which is like 3 through kindergarten. We have an elementary camp, which is anywhere from first through, 6th grade. But some of the big things that we bring into are like STEM, healthy living, moving, also like art, music, sports. I know there's a sports themed week. And then we always have a field trip each week as well. And Amy, you touched on something that I think was really important that we try to do as well. That end of August slash beginning of June timeframe is really tough. The one thing that we do really well is we utilize the Monday after school is done as a training day for our new staff for summer camp. And then summer camp literally starts the day after that. We do utilize 2 weeks before school starts in August as staff training for the regular school year. But the beginning of the summer is one place that we have really tried to, provide an offering that parents don't normally get. And again, like I mentioned, every week's theme. So outdoor work, working with other students, and also like real world experiences and things by getting out and seeing things. So what we try to do is create a Montessori summer camp for children that, one, go to our school, but also children that are not experienced with that, and are coming in and learning that as well. So I think the combination of those students coming into the same environment is a really cool experience for our staff as well.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Jay. Parents of children with developmental differences have additional concerns when looking for a camp. They might be trying to determine if their child needs a therapeutic camp, or if they decide their child doesn't need a therapeutic camp, they might feel they have to put extra effort into discerning if a typical camp is a comfortable place for their child. Dana, what advice do you have for parents in this situation?
Yeah, I think I often get asked, like, what is the right fit? Is this the right fit? And I think it's not necessarily about any camp being the good or bad for a neurodiverse child. It's about, can the camp accommodate the needs of your child, and is there enough flexibility in the structure that they have in place to make sure that you feel like your child is safe. I think that safety piece is a big piece, especially when we're talking about neurodiverse learners who are very reliant on relationships and making sure that they have that strong connection to people to feel safe in environments. And I think the answer is, if you need additional supports, there are some summer camps that can provide, based on maybe your IEP that you have in place, or any therapeutic services that you already receive, that you can get those additional supports. At our summer camp, that looks like most of our kids are receiving one-on-one support. So that is something that they have available. So for kids that might have a SICA in a classroom, or a classroom aide in their current classroom, that's a space where we get a lot of questions of, like, what does this look like? How do I know that my child's going to be, I don't want them just standing in the corner. I want to make sure that they are actively engaged. So it's the one-to-one support that kids can get with us. And that's something to look into. I think it's also, if for a lot of neurodiverse families, they want to continue accessing all of their therapeutic services over the summer. So if you do speech or occupational therapy, or you do ABA services, or whatever that might look, you do mental health services, is there a way to incorporate that into your schedule so that you're not also running all over the city? A lot of those services, if you're already getting those, it's difficult to change a schedule. And so how do we support scheduling all of those things all at the same time? So our program here at LEAP and QLA is really incorporating all of those therapeutic services into your summer camp day. So how do we make occupational therapy therapeutic within summer camp activities? Well, swimming is a really great way to do that. We navigate the CTA, we go on buses, we're out and about in our community. We take field trips weekly. So we're out and about, just really exploring the city that we have, and doing that all through a therapeutic and clinical lens. So they're still getting those therapy services, but they're also getting the added benefit of a summer camp experience.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think about all the different scheduling that can be involved for a student getting therapeutic services, how complicated that can be. Yeah, right.
It definitely is a puzzle for parents to put everything together. So we try to be the kind of one space that they can come to, or if they're still seeing if they are working with a different clinic or a different provider, then we can adjust scheduling to support them so that they can be here for the time that they can be, and then they can still access those services outside of summer camp as well.
Great, thank you.
Another tricky camp situation is children who start to feel too old for camp, but they still need some structure. Or maybe there is a challenge of having a child who really wants to dig deep into a personal interest and parents can barely keep up with their child's passion. Sarah, you work with preteens and teens who might fall into this category. Tell us how middle schoolers spend their summers at Chicago Academy for the Arts.
Yeah. Well, we offer arts intensives, 2 weeks and 1 week sessions from 10 to 3 every day in a variety of disciplines: dance, film, photography, animation, creative writing, music. We have a songwriting camp where students record their own EP, and then at the end of camp, we put it on Spotify, and everyone's very proud. Theater, musical theater, and all visual arts disciplines: painting, drawing, sculpture. And we're even launching an architecture class. So, Tara, you're exactly right. They can be very sort of specific passions, but actually, we always like when we have families with like two kids who each like find their own arts discipline, and they're at our school together at the same time. Is really fun. So we offer elevated pre-professional arts training. One thing that's really nice about our programs, I think, is that you're working with the arts faculty at the Chicago Academy for the Arts. I like to say we don't have like a B team for middle schoolers. You're working with our arts faculty and their professional artists in the city of Chicago. It's also kind of helpful if you are considering an arts education at the high school level, because you can really get a taste of the kind of arts training we offer. And actually, we have a number of students that are going into 9th grade over the summer. Sometimes we have them apply to the academy, and we get them in, and they come and they join us in the fall because they just get a taste of the community and the training, and they love it. So for families with middle schoolers who are curious about an arts education at the high school level, it can be a really good learning experience to see what that's like.
That's great. Another thing I thought of as we're talking about slightly older kids, middle school is probably too young for this, but as far as maybe high school age, one way to keep high schoolers involved in camp is to get them working at a camp. Do any of your camps hire teens as counselors or to fill other roles?
We often hire our own high schoolers for the summer camp, and we find, again, that's a really great way of just giving students the personal touch of people who know, working with the assistants who understand our programs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do as well. We hire some teens, and kind of the added benefit, I think, is they bring a lot of energy to our current staff.
Mm-hmm.
Our summer camp is meant for our teachers to sign up and work if they want, but they're not required to. So I think the combination of our experienced teachers with the younger, teen staff or whoever we have helping out in the summer, is a good little, change of pace, but also the fact that we have an entire day before summer camp starts to kind of get that onboarding and training and things. And I think that's also important, especially if you're working with teenagers or just anyone that isn't familiar with your facility. So, I think that any way that we can bring in, some teenagers or younger staff that needs the experience or is just interested, we try to do that.
Jay, we do something similar, and while we might not be hiring high school students, we do have programming for high school age students, so at kind of all developmental levels. But for our high school age students, that's going to look a lot more like that life skills training, doing some more of the daily living independence building skills. But also a great experience. We've had a lot of success with staff in the past because the majority of our staff for summer camp are our clinical staff that are with us all year. That you have to have that kind of specialized clinical training, but there is a space we get a lot of graduate students who are or people that are exploring different therapeutic disciplines for their professional, before they take that next professional step. So they're looking for summer internships or just a way to gain experience. We get a lot of graduate students in speech, occupational therapy. We get teachers who are just looking to expand their clinical knowledge. So that's been, and I agree, it kind of breathes fresh life into the staff that have been there for the year. So the combination of switching up the programming and being more out and about and out in community, and then having new staff members can kind of refresh everybody for the summer, so they can have that quality summer camp experience.
Teens definitely the energy.
We have kind of the same situation at Camp Cassim as what Dana talked about. We are staffed almost entirely by college student volunteers, but for our high schoolers, there is programming that we're really trying to target towards them and like help them be able to develop leadership skills, things like giving a speech, building an argument, debate, things like that, while still keeping it fun. And they also have the opportunity to lead a carnival for our younger kids. So there definitely is programming for them. And lots of our former campers who graduate out of our program become counselors at their universities. And of course, we're open to volunteers who weren't campers.
Awesome. Shani, I would actually love to hear a little bit more about Camp Cassim. I understand that it's a camp that's free for kids who have a parent facing cancer. Can you just tell us a little bit more about Camp Cassim, why it's important for these kids to have this experience, and any other details you might want to share?
Yeah, definitely. So we serve children ages 6 through 18, so kind of a wide range there. And it's a sleepaway camp for children, like you said, whose parents or caregivers, which we interpret pretty loosely, have been affected by cancer. All transportation from we're based out of Northwestern, so from Evanston to the campsite, which is a couple hours away up in Wisconsin, is provided, and like we do our very best to provide any kinds of like need-based assistance to get families to Evanston, to provide clothing if their kids need it and such, just because of course we are a free summer camp, but also we understand that like families come from very different financial backgrounds, and we want to make sure that everyone in that situation can participate without the added like financial burden on top of like a scary diagnosis or treatment and things like that.
It's really amazing that you thought of the camp itself is free, but there are still costs of attending a camp. If you're helping them with, say, clothing and getting to Evanston, so they can get on what I imagine might be a camp bus or something.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then also, sorry, to answer the second part of your question about the importance of Camp Cassim. So what we really aim to do is, it's not like group therapy or anything like that. We just aim to facilitate a fun environment where kids can get to know other kids who are in similar situations as them, who can sort of understand them without needing to explain. And I've seen that be really valuable for them. We like to call it Cassim magic. And it really is magical, like getting to see those camp friendships blossom and see kids come out of their shell a little bit more when they are really supported and feel understood in that kind of environment.
Oh, yeah, that is incredibly important and valuable, I'm sure, for those kids, and probably helping them forge relationships and friendships that they'll have for many years to come.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's wonderful to hear about all of these summer opportunities for kids in Chicago. As camp professionals, what is your advice to parents who are determining if a summer camp is the right fit for their child? We've touched on this a little bit, but just your last best advice for families.
For us, for me, and it's going to be ask all the questions. Like our intake process is a little bit more involved in where someone like myself or another one of our clinical team will have a conversation with a family to learn as much as we can about your child before they start. We typically do like a meet and greet where they come into the building, get a chance to see them in our space with the kids that are a part of our program, many of the kids that they may be a part of programming with. So it's a good combination of kids that are a part of our school year program and kids that are new to us for the summer. So really just taking that time to ask those questions, to no question is too small, to make sure you feel like it's the right fit. So happy to spend that time with families as they're determining whether or not a camp can support their child.
Yeah, I think just jumping off of that, obviously, you have a lot more of an intake process, Dana, than maybe we do. But I just think that sometimes parents put a little bit too much pressure on themselves to make the right decision and just feel confident in yourselves. You know your child pretty well. Also, talk to your child, just see what they're interested in, and encourage them to go after that. I think that too many times we're trying to send our kids to what we want them to do, but I think it's important to see what they want to do. And that will also help them be more excited and participate more and meet more people and so on. And so I just think giving your child the keys to success through the confidence that you have is important. So just don't beat yourself up. You're going to pick one wrong camp at some point. It's about learning and growing from that, because we all make mistakes. Just make sure that you do your research, get applying early, and be organized, and that will make your summer a lot less stressful.
Yeah, I want to just jump in and follow up on something Dana said, that most camps, like sure all camps, really want to meet the student where they are, inspire them, provide a safe place to learn and grow. And so communicate your needs and your questions, because places want to be flexible with you and find that ideal situation for the kid. We have students who start out in drawing and they're like, no, I think I want to do animation. We'll just pop them right over. All it takes is a conversation, because we really, that's our mission. So
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Like, we want to hear your questions, your concerns, your feedback. Just, I think every one of us in this room is like invested in making camp the best experience for your kids. So just reach out.
So reassuring. Thank you all so much.
Yeah. And with that is the end of today's episode. Thank you to our wonderful panelists, Dana, Jay, Sarah, and Shinny. And thank you, parents, for listening. Tell us about what you like to hear about and who you'd like to hear from by clicking the link in our show notes. Hit the subscribe button to stay in the loop, and we'll see you around the neighborhood.